Yeah, and we've been digging into some really interesting sources you shared, The Learner, focusing on, well, different ways to read ancient Vedic texts.
Absolutely, because the standard take often paints Vedic civilization as, let's say, scientifically basic, especially when it comes to astronomy.
But these sources push back hard against that.
They really do.
Yeah.
And a key figure in this is Acharya Agnivrata.
Right. His whole argument seems to be that we're stuck on these really simple, everyday meanings for Vedic words. And by doing that, we're completely missing this potentially vast cosmic understanding hidden inside, like seeing only the handle on a complex tool.
Precisely. It's an argument about interpreted failure, really. So our goal here, our mission in this deep dive, is to unpack this alternative view.
Okay.
The view that says the Vedas actually hold some pretty advanced scientific ideas about the universe, and we're going to use one specific word as our test case.
Which word is that?
Kūpa.
Kūpa. Okay, so traditionally, what does that mean? I just looked it up.
You'd usually find, well, a hole in the ground for water. Maybe a difficult one to draw from.
Pretty straightforward, mundane even.
Exactly. And that's Acharya Agnivrata's point. He sees this as a perfect example of how these profound cosmic ideas might have been sort of flattened over time, reduced to the everyday.
Okay, so he thinks that's a failure of interpretation.
Yes, a failure that potentially obscures a much deeper scientific layer.
So what's the alternative? How do these sources reinterpret Kūpa on a cosmic scale?
They lean heavily on Nurukta, the ancient text on Vedic etymology and interpretation.
Right.
And based on that, the claim is Kūpa doesn't just mean well. It refers to complex, intricate structures within stars or celestial bodies.
Within stars, like what?
Specifically, the sources connect it to solar black spots. The term used is Kūpa, or similar voids and structures we see in stars.
Wow, okay. Solar black spots. That's a world away from a water well?
So how does the traditional etymology, adite, meaning like difficult to drink or absorb, fit with that cosmic picture?
Well, the reinterpretation applies that same idea, difficulty in absorption, but to matter and energy within these stellar phenomena.
Ah, so not water, but cosmic stuff.
Exactly. Think about the intense processes inside stars, the difficulty in absorbing or processing huge amounts of matter and energy within things like sunspots or maybe even more energetic regions.
That makes sense. They twist the meaning in a really interesting way. But you mentioned it's not just one kind of cosmic Kūpa.
No, not according to Dr. Sandeep Kumar Singh's analysis mentioned in the sources. He suggests Kūpa might be an umbrella term.
An umbrella for what?
For potentially 14 distinct Sanskrit terms, all related to Kūpa, each describing different types of cosmic cavities or phenomena.
14? Seriously.
14, which, if correct, points to a really nuanced and detailed observational astronomy in the Vedic period.
So what sort of things are we talking about, these 14 terms? What might they represent? The sources suggest they could cover a range of phenomena-specific regions on stars, maybe even concepts akin to black holes or areas where matter is undergoing intense transformation out in space.
Okay, this is getting really deep. Now, you also mentioned another layer to the etymology of Kūpa itself, something about speaking or anger.
Yes, that's another fascinating thread. Besides the well-meaning, Nirukta apparently connects Kūpa to roots like Kūpa-pasartha, which means for speaking or illuminating.
Illuminating.
And Kūpa-krodhe, meaning to be angry or agitated.
Angry. How does angry relate to cosmic structures?
Well, this interpretation suggests Kūpa could also point to specific zones in the universe that are highly energetic, unstable, maybe even destructive. Think regions of intense activity and change.
So not just passive holes, but active, maybe violent places. What's the astronomical link there?
The sources describe these as highly agitated regions, drawing in streams of energy or matter, maybe like accretion processes we observe now.
Like around black holes?
Potentially, yes. The key emphasis from this etymology is on absorption, agitation, and transformation, not creation. Stars might appear turbulent. Matter entering these Kūpas would be moving incredibly fast, violently.
Okay, so Kūpa is potentially this multifaceted term, a solar feature, an energetic cosmic region, and there are 14 specific types.
That's the proposition based on Nigantu chapter 3, verse 23. It lists names like Kūpa itself, Katu, Karta, Vavra, Kata, Avata.
Let me stop you there. Katu, Karta.
It's a lot.
It is. Suddha, Utsa, Hridet, Karotarat, Kusaya, Kevata. The point isn't necessarily to memorize them all right now, but to grasp the implication.
Which is?
That each name might pinpoint a different characteristic or function of these cosmic structures. It suggests a very sophisticated classification system.
Okay, let's unpack a few then. Give us a feel for it. What about Kūpa? It was described as sounding cavities.
Yes, Katu apparently comes from the root ka shabde, meaning to sound.
Sound in space. But space is a vacuum, mostly. Well, the interpretation suggests these specific stellar cavities generate sound or acoustic phenomena. The sources talk about acoustic waves, even comparing the sound to terrifying noises in a river.
Acoustic waves.
Yeah.
Like helioseismology studies sound waves inside the sun.
Exactly. It hints at an ancient awareness of vibrational or wave-like properties within celestial bodies. Cosmic vibrations, essentially.
That's pretty mind-blowing if true.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the next one? Karta, the matter fragmenters. Sounds destructive.
It does. Karta is linked to katichidana, to cut or to divide.
So it chops things up.
Apparently, yes. The interpretation describes a three-step process: transforming larger matter, fragmenting it into smaller particles, and then cosmic recycling.
Recycling. How?
These fragmented particles can then reattach to stars or become part of the interstellar medium again. So it's not just destruction, it's part of a cycle, matter transformation.
A cosmic breakdown and rebuild process. Okay. Then you mentioned Vavra and Kata as cosmic converters. Converting what?
Vavra seems to indicate cavities that convert matter into more subtle forms and then transport into the star's interior.
So feeding the star.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Solar transport, matter conversion. And kata is interesting. It's linked to raining or covering.
Raining?
Yeah, it describes regions with some kind of sunlight oil, evocative term, right? Where streams of matter rain down continuously. This keeps the cavity open but allows it to move around.
Sunlight oil. It paints a picture, definitely. In an ongoing process of transformation and movement.
Exactly. And kata also comes up with avatar as cosmic excavators.
Excavators. Digging in space.
Metaphorically, yes. They're described as looking like pits or caves dug into the cosmic fabric, constantly digging into or processing incoming matter.
What's their purpose then? Still feeding the star.
Yes, supplying fuel-like substances is mentioned. But also, they act as luminescence sources, generating electromagnetic energy. And they're seen as dense regions influencing stellar activity.
So they're active players, not just holes. Okay, next pair. Krivi and Sudang, the violent transformers. Sounds intense.
It does. Krivi is linked to injury or violence, describing really destructive processes that break down matter specifically for use inside the star.
Violent preparation for stellar fuel.
Seems to be the idea. And Sudha, related to flowing or oozing, but also injury, describes how this violently processed matter then flows into the star's inner regions, possibly at different speeds.
So violent fragmentation followed by internal flow. A dynamic system.
Very dynamic. Then there's Utsa, the cosmic whirlpools.
Whirlpools. Like water.
That's the analogy. It describes a dual flow matter goes in and sinks down, but some is also tossed upward by internal currents. A complex swirl.
And can you see these?
The sources suggest these might actually manifest as observable surface features on stars, revealing the internal circulation. It connects the micro and macro, terrestrial whirlpools, and stellar dynamics.
Fascinating. Okay, moving on. Risyadet, the cosmic churners.
Right. Fernada implies a process where matter enters, gets churned violently at high speeds. The analogy is churning curd.
Like making butter.
Kind of.
Yeah.
This churning transforms the material, and significantly, some of it gets ejected back out.
So intake, intense mixing, transformation, and partial ejection. Very active.
Extremely. And then we have Karudarat and Kusaya described as complex cosmic structures. What's complex about them?
They're presented as intricate, three-dimensional structures, not simple holes. They have varied shapes, and matter follows nonlinear paths within them.
So not just straight in and out. No. Karudarat apparently involves conflicting activities happening inside, while Kusaya refers to crooked cave-like structures, possibly in malevolent solar regions, whatever that means exactly. The point is, they're more complex than simple wells or whirlpools.
Got it. Much more intricate geometry and dynamics. And the last one you listed was Kavita, cosmic service structures. Service.
Yeah, from kever savin, meaning to serve. These are seen as essential support structures for stars.
How do they serve?
By processing matter to make it usable, producing energy, maintaining the star's structure, and even regulating heat distribution, they're like the star's essential maintenance and operations crew.
Wow. Okay, so just recapping Kūpa. From a simple, well, this reinterpretation explodes it into potentially 14 distinct types of complex, functional cosmic structures involved in everything from sound generation to matter recycling to stellar maintenance.
It's a radical shift in perspective, definitely.
And this whole approach hinges on understanding different levels of meaning in the Vedas, right?
Correct. The sources lay out three main levels. First, the Adhidaivic level.
Adhidaivic.
That's the primary cosmic or divine interpretation. It deals with the universe's creation, its fundamental workings. This is considered the root meaning.
Okay, the big picture.
Then secondary is the Adipatic level. That's the material, worldly interpretation, the physical objects, everyday life, like interpreting Kūpa as just a water well.
The mundane meaning.
Right. And third is the Atmic level, the tertiary one. This is the spiritual meaning, related to the individual soul, consciousness, spiritual practice.
So cosmic, material, spiritual. But crucially, the material and spiritual meanings are seen as derived from the cosmic one.
Exactly. They flow from the Adhidaivic.
And Acharya Agnivrata insists this Adhidaivic, the cosmic level, has to be primary. Why is that so important for him?
His core argument, as presented in the sources, is that Vedic mantras aren't just descriptions. They are the vibrational blueprint of creation itself.
The blueprint.
Yes. The idea is that the sounds, the vibrations of the mantras, are fundamentally connected to how the universe was formed and how it operates. Therefore, they must contain profound cosmic knowledge.
Knowledge about cosmic structures, processes.
Exactly. Knowledge that, he argues, might even go beyond what modern science has uncovered in some areas. The sounds themselves hold the secrets.
That's a profound claim. And what then is the ultimate purpose of having this Vedic knowledge, according to this view?
Acharya Agnivrata apparently outlines a kind of four-stage journey.
Okay.
Stage 1. Souls start in a state of liberation, of pure knowledge. Stage 2, they enter the material creation, bringing this divine knowledge with them.
So we arrived knowing.
According to this, yes. Stage 3 is the crucial part. Using that innate Vedic wisdom to understand the entire creation, the cosmos, and stage 4.
Our turn to liberation.
Exactly. Achieving mukti through that complete understanding. Knowledge is the path back.
A cosmic cycle of knowing, experiencing, understanding, and returning. Very different from just historical texts.
Very. And this perspective leads to some strong critiques of earlier interpretations.
Wait, you mentioned he's critical of traditional commentators.
Yes, figures like Skandaswami, Durgaswami. The criticism is that they often miss these deeper Adhidaivic meanings, sticking too close to the mundane, the Adhibadic.
Lost the cosmic picture.
Essentially. The sources even mention perceived limitations in Dayanand Saraswati's Hindi translation in this regard. There's a real concern expressed about the degradation of Vedic glory.
Degradation how?
By reducing the profound scientific and cosmic insights to simpler, sometimes even problematic, earthly interpretations. The question is posed, are we truly appreciating the Vedas or diminishing them?
And the key to getting back to that original glory, that deeper meaning, is Nurukta.
Absolutely. Maharishi Yaska's Nirukta is presented as the indispensable tool. It provides the etymological keys, the context needed to unlock the cosmic significance hidden behind the everyday words.
It's like the decoder ring.
In a way, yes. And the sources highlight that Acharya Agnivrata's commentary is claimed to be the first truly complete one, even including chapters apparently omitted before.
So a full understanding of Nurukta is step one for this whole reinterpretation project.
It's positioned as essential for recovering the original scientific and cosmic meanings.
And alongside recovering meanings, this approach also involved actively rejecting certain interpretations found in tradition.
Yes, very explicitly. Interpretations that introduce things like animal sacrifice, unnecessary violence, obscenity, or any form of social discrimination, caste, gender, color, these are rejected.
On what grounds?
As later corruptions. Things added or twisted over time that are fundamentally opposed to what they see as the true, original Vedic spirit, which is rooted in cosmic harmony and knowledge, not social division or crude practices.
Is there a specific example of this kind of clash over interpretation?
The Manduka Sukta, the frog hymn, is brought up.
The frog hymn. Okay.
Traditionally, it's sometimes been interpreted literally about frogs, or, more problematically according to Agnivrata, in ways he deems vulgar or carnal, relating to base human desires.
He finds those interpretations offensive.
Yes. He critiques them as crude, lustful, and failing to grasp the deeper significance, essentially disrespecting the text.
So what's his alternative for the frog hymn?
Aligning with the Adhidaivic principle, The proposed interpretation sees it as describing profound cosmic processes, maybe creation cycles, energy transformations, patterns of cosmic energy, divine creativity on a universal scale.
So frogs become metaphors for cosmic energies.
Or perhaps the sounds described relate to cosmic vibrations, connecting back to Katu. The point is shifting from the mundane or vulgar to the cosmic and scientific. He argues vehemently against reducing the sublime to the sensual.
It seems like these problematic interpretations are seen as having real consequences historically.
Yes, the sources suggest a kind of domino effect.
How so?
It starts with flawed commentaries missing the cosmic depth. This allows misconceptions like justification for sacrifice, violence, untouchability to creep in. These misconceptions then fuel actual social divisions, gender inequality, the caste system. And the end result is a diminished understanding, a loss of the original scientific and philosophical richness.
So the social problems are linked back to a failure of interpretation.
That's the argument presented. Acharya Agnivrata is quoted saying these issues were introduced through interpretations that just didn't grasp the cosmic scale of the texts.
This reinterpretation doesn't just challenge traditional views, it seems to challenge modern science too, specifically evolution.
It does. Acharya Agnivrata apparently puts forward a contrasting idea, not evolution upwards from simplicity, but intellectual degeneration downwards from an initially perfect state of knowledge given by the divine.
Degeneration. So we started out knowing more.
That's the concept. The sources quote him directly challenging the so-called theory of evolution. The implication is that ancient Vedic science, properly understood, might have been more advanced in its grasp of cosmic fundamentals than we are now.
How could that be argued? Based on things like the Kūpa terms?
Precisely. The argument is that the detailed descriptions of cosmic phenomena, like the 14 types of Kūpa found through Nurukta, represent a scientific understanding that might, in some ways, be more specific or holistic than modern astrophysics, or at least offer a different, valuable perspective.
That's a bold claim.
Yeah.
So given all this critique, this alternative interpretation, this challenge, what's the proposed path forward? How do we recover this true Vedic knowledge?
The sources outline a few key steps. First, a complete and deep study of Nirukta, using commentaries like Agnivrata's that include the full text.
Master the decoder ring.
Right. Second, always prioritize the Adidevic, the cosmic meaning, as the primary lens for interpretation.
Start with the big picture.
Third, actively reject those interpretations deemed inappropriate or corrupt to the violence, discrimination, etc.
Cleanse the interpretations.
And fourth, try to build bridges. Connect this recovered ancient understanding with modern scientific discoveries. See where they align, where they diverge, what each can learn from the other.
So it's about recovery, purification, and integration.
Exactly. The ultimate aim presented is to bring back this profound scientific knowledge that's believed to have been obscured, which could potentially change how we see ancient India and maybe even contribute new ideas to science today.
Okay, so wrapping this up, we started with Kūpa, a simple well, and ended up with this incredibly elaborate system of potentially 14 distinct types of cosmic structures, sounding cavities, matter fragmenters, cosmic whirlpools, service structures for stars, all unlocked through Nirukta and prioritizing that cosmic Adidevic meaning.
It really highlights the core argument that the Vedas might hold a far deeper, scientifically richer understanding of the universe than the standard interpretations suggest.
Yeah, it's not just mythology or ritual texts in this view. It's potentially advanced cosmology.
And that perspective could potentially challenge some of our modern scientific assumptions or offer new avenues for thought.
It definitely leaves you thinking, the learner, how might looking at other ancient texts anywhere in the world through a similar cosmic lens change our understanding? Could there be more hidden science waiting to be rediscovered?
A fascinating thought.
And perhaps as a next step, digging into those other 13 names for Kūpa that were mentioned, seeing what specific cosmic functions they might describe according to these sources.
Yeah.
That could be quite revealing.